Welcome to this deep dive. Get ready, because today we're plunging into a connection that might genuinely surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
We're linking something pretty common, moving your body, specifically aerobic exercise, with this, incredible bustling universe living right inside your gut, your microbiome.
It really is a hidden world, isn't it? Trillions of microbes. And the more we learn, the clearer it becomes just how much they influence, everything. Not just digestion, but our overall systemic health.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've sifted through, a whole stack of research papers, scientific reviews, recent studies, basically the latest findings.
Yeah, trying to get a clear picture.
Exactly. Cutting through the noise.
Yeah.
Our mission today is really to break down what these sources are telling us. How does aerobic exercise actually, shape your gut microbiome?
And what do those changes really mean for your health?
Right. From how you process food to your mood, even how sharp your brain feels. And also, what are the big questions scientists are still grappling with?
It's such a fast-moving field. We're uncovering links we just, never fully appreciated before.
So true. And here's something to chew on right from the start. What if the bacteria living in your gut right now are actually influencing your motivation to exercise?
Or how you feel after you exercise.
Or even just your general sense of well-being day to day. That's the kind of surprising territory we're exploring today. Ready to dig in?
Let's do it. And maybe we should start with the basics. Just lay the groundwork. What is the gut microbiome exactly?
Good idea. Yeah, break down.
Okay, so think of it as this huge, incredibly complex ecosystem. It lives mostly in your large intestine, and we're talking trillions of microorganisms.
Trillions.
Yeah, mainly bacteria, but also viruses, fungi, other tiny microbes, and they live in this symbiotic relationship with us, with you.
Symbiotic, meaning they benefit us and we benefit them.
In a healthy state, yes. The sheer numbers are just mind-boggling. There are actually more microbial cells in your gut than human cells in your entire body.
That's wild. It really is like a universe within us. And you mentioned it's not just about digestion, which is what most people think of, right?
Yeah.
Why is it suddenly seen as so critical for systemic health?
Well, because these tiny inhabitants, they don't just, stay put in the gut. They interact constantly with our immune system, about 70% of which is located around the gut.
70%? Wow.
Yeah, and they produce these compounds, metabolites, that circulate throughout the body. They communicate with organs far away, including, crucially, the brain.
So they're sending messages everywhere.
Pretty much. It's now really viewed as a critical mediator. It influences metabolism, immune responses, inflammation levels, even neurological processes. It's a central player.
Okay, so it's influencing stuff happening all over the body, not just breaking down that lunchtime salad. What does a healthy gut microbiome actually look like then? What are the signs?
Well, the main thing scientists tend to agree on is diversity, richness, and variety. A diverse community with lots of different types of bacteria is generally considered a hallmark of a healthy gut.
Like a rainforest, right? More species means more resilient ecosystem.
That's a great analogy, exactly. And conversely, studies consistently link lower diversity, a less varied microbiome, with various poorer health outcomes. Things like inflammatory conditions, metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, even some mental health issues.
Okay, so diversity is key. A vibrant, varied community. What else is crucial? What are these microbes actually doing that's so important?
Well, one of our most vital jobs is producing something called short-chain fatty acids. You'll often see them abbreviated as SCFAs.
SCFAs.
These are incredibly important chemicals, metabolites that the gut bacteria generate when they ferment stuff we can't digest ourselves. Yeah. Mostly dietary fibers from plants.
So they're eating the fiber we eat, the stuff our own bodies can't break down.
Precisely. They perform this microbial fermentation on complex carbohydrates, things like celluloses, various plant fibers, resistant starches, even some sugars that make it down to the colon.
And they turn that into these SCFAs.
Exactly. The main ones are acetic acid, which you might know as acetate, propionic acid or propionate, and butyric acid or butyrate. And these aren't just minor byproducts, they're critical.
Critical how?
Well, for starters, they're a major energy source for the cells lining your the colonocytes. They also play huge roles in regulating our metabolism. They influence cardiovascular health, and they have these far-reaching effects on our immune system and even the nervous system.
Okay, butyrate you mentioned. That one seems to come up a lot.
It does. Butyrate gets a lot of attention, especially because it's the preferred fuel for those colon cells, and it's known to have really potent anti-inflammatory effects within the gut.
Fascinating stuff. So, we've got this diverse community ideally producing these vital SCFAs. And let's connect it to movement. How does getting active, specifically aerobic exercise, influence this internal world? How does it, cultivate this gut garden?
Right. Well, aerobic exercise activities that get your heart rate up and keep it there for a while, like running, swimming, cycling, it's proving to be one of the most powerful non-dietary ways to positively change your gut microbiome.
More powerful than diet. Or just different.
Different, but significant in its own right. Think of it as a major environmental signal that helps shape this complex ecosystem living inside you. Diet is huge, obviously, but exercise is another key lever we can pull.
Okay, so it's a lever. What specific changes are researchers actually seeing? When people start doing aerobic exercise, what happens to their gut microbes?
One of the most consistent findings, really across numerous studies, is an increase in microbial diversity.
Back to diversity.
Exactly. Individuals who regularly engage in aerobic exercise, whether they're elite athletes or just people who exercise habitually, tend to have higher levels of microbial diversity compared to sedentary folks.
So, more different kinds of bacteria.
Yes. And this ties right back to what we said earlier. More diversity is generally linked to a healthier gut state. Exercise seems to directly promote that richer, more varied ecosystem.
So my morning jog isn't just good for my heart and lungs. It's literally encouraging more different types of helpful bacteria to set up shop in my gut.
That's precisely what the research suggests. It's quite remarkable, and it goes beyond just overall diversity. Exercise also seems to actively favor the growth and abundance of specific types of beneficial bacteria.
Okay, like microbial all-stars. Who are we talking about?
Well, a prime example, one that pops up again and again in these studies, is a bacterium called Akkermansia mucinifila.
Akkermansia. Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's gained a lot of attention. It's often found in significantly higher levels in athletes compared to non-athletes. Some early, quite influential studies, like one looking at professional rugby players, really highlighted this difference.
So what's so special about Akkermansia? What does it do that's so beneficial?
Akkermansia has this really unique niche. It actually lives on and consumes the mucin layer that's the protective mucus layer lining your gut wall.
It eats the lining. Isn't that bad?
You'd think so, but paradoxically, by munching on the mucin, it stimulates the gut cells, the goblet cells, to produce more mucin. So it actually helps thicken and maintain this crucial protective barrier.
Okay. So it keeps the barrier strong by interacting with it.
Exactly. And it also produces some SCFAs as byproducts. This whole process is believed to be really key for strengthening the gut barrier integrity. It helps reduce intestinal permeability, preventing that leaky gut situation where potentially harmful stuff can pass from the gut into the bloodstream.
Right, leaky gut.
Yeah.
That seems linked to inflammation.
It absolutely is. So Akkermansia helps regulate inflammation, partly by keeping that barrier strong. And consistently, higher levels of Akkermansia are linked in studies to a lower risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, chronic inflammation, and various metabolic disorders. Think of them as the crucial maintenance crew for your gut lining.
I like that, the maintenance crew. So exercise boosts Akkermansia, reinforces the gut lining, helps keep inflammation down. What about those other important characters, the SCFA producers, the ones making butyrate?
That's another major finding. Exercise consistently seems to increase the abundance of bacteria known for churning out butyrate and other SCFAs.
Okay.
We see this in animal models first. Studies with mice, for instance, that were given free access to running wheels showed a significant jump in total SCFA production after they had been exercising for a while.
And what about in people? Does running actually make us produce more butyrate?
Human studies suggest yes. Often researchers look at cardiorespiratory fitness, like measuring peak oxygen uptake, VO2 max as a kind of proxy for regular aerobic activity. They compare people with high fitness levels to those with lower levels, trying to control for other things like BMI and diet, which is tricky.
Diet's always a factor.
Always. But these studies find that fitter individuals, independent of diet sometimes, tend to have not just more total species, that diversity point again, but specifically a greater abundance of well-known butyrate producers.
Like who? Any specific names?
Yeah, groups like the order Clostridiales and specific genera like Roseburia, families like Lachnospiraceae and Erysipelotrichaceae. These all contain key butyrate-producing species.
Okay.
And another study, this one focusing specifically on women, found that those who were habitually active had higher levels of Fecalibacterium prosnitzi, Roseburia hominis, and Again, Akkermansia machinophylla. And both F. prosnitzi and R. hominis are major direct contributors to butyrate synthesis in the gut.
Wow. So the pattern seems pretty clear then. Whether it's mice choosing to run or humans who are aerobically fit, exercise seems to create this environment where these crucial SCFA factories thrive.
That's the prevailing idea, yes. Now, here's where it gets maybe a little more complicated. It highlights that how you respond might not be the same as someone else.
Individual differences.
Exactly. There was one particular study that looked specifically at how exercise changed the gut microbiome in people starting from different health points. They compared individuals with healthy weights to individuals classified as having obesity.
Okay, and what did they find? Did exercise affect their guts differently?
Intriguingly, yes. In that specific study, the participants who started at a healthy weight saw an increase in beneficial bacteria, like Sacchalobacterium, known for its anti-inflammatory properties, after they started the exercise program.
Okay, good news there.
But in the participants who started with obesity, the levels of Sacchalobacterium actually decreased with the same exercise program.
Decreased? That's surprising.
It is. And they saw other differing patterns, too. For instance, levels of bacteroids, a very common group of gut bacteria, dropped in the healthy weight group but went up in the group with obesity. And perhaps most strikingly, that positive increase in the key butyrate-producing bacteria. That was observed only in the individuals who were at a healthy weight in this particular study.
Wow. That really underlines that it's not a simple one-size-fits-all effect, does it? It suggests that maybe your starting point, your metabolic health, really influences how your gut microbes respond to exercise.
It absolutely seems to, and that study really underscores the complexity we're dealing with here. We also have to keep acknowledging that challenge from the early research disentangling exercise from diet.
Right. Those rugby players probably ate very differently from the control group.
Exactly. Athletes often have vastly different diets, typically higher in fiber, protein, maybe total calories, and those dietary factors are huge drivers of microbiome composition on their own. It was a major confounder.
So how do scientists try to separate the two? How do they know it's the running itself and not just, the runner's diet causing the changes?
Well, later studies have gotten much more sophisticated. Some strategies involve putting all participants on a standardized, controlled diet during the study period. That's tough to do, but valuable.
Yeah, hard to enforce.
Very. Others use large data sets and complex statistical analyses to try and correlate gut composition with objective measures of fitness, like that VO2 max, independently of what people report eating. These more controlled studies provide stronger evidence suggesting that exercise itself does have a direct beneficial impact on the gut microbiome.
Okay.
But, diet is always there. It's still a powerful co-factor. Helps prepare the soil in your gut garden, makes it more fertile. But diet provides the specific seeds, the nutrients that allow those beneficial microbes to really flourish.
That's a really helpful analogy. Exercise preps the soil, diet provides the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So exercise boosts diversity, helps good bacteria like Akkermansia and SCFA producers grow. We've established that. Now let's really get into the why. Why is cultivating this healthier gut garden through exercise so good for you? What are the actual mechanisms linking these microbial shifts to better health overall?
Right. This is where it all starts to connect. Firstly, there's a pretty direct impact on digestion and motility.
Motility, meaning things moving through.
Exactly. Physical activity stimulates peristalsis, those natural muscular contractions that push food along your digestive tract. So exercise helps keep things moving smoothly, prevents sluggishness, can help with constipation. Even something really simple, like a gentle walk after a meal, can aid this process.
So just getting up and moving helps your insides move along too. Makes sense. What else?
Another key mechanism is improved circulation. Exercise, as we know, boosts blood flow everywhere in the body, and that includes your digestive organs.
Oh, okay.
Increased blood flow delivers more oxygen and nutrients to the cells lining your gut. It supports the overall metabolic function of the microbiome itself, helping them do their job of breaking down food and helping you absorb nutrients more effectively.
What kind of exercise is best for that?
The sources mention low-impact cardio things like cycling, swimming, rowing as being particularly good for gently boosting blood flow to the gut area without putting excessive stress on it. Even core strengthening exercises can play a role, kind of massaging the intestines and promoting movement, preventing stagnation.
Okay, better blood flow makes sense. What about inflammation? That seems to be the big villain in so many health stories today.
It really is. And reducing inflammation is probably one of the most significant benefits linked to the exercise gut connection. Those changes we talked about the increased diversity, the boost in beneficial microbes, they exert powerful anti-inflammatory effects and support a more balanced immune system.
And this is where the SCFAs come back in, especially butyrate.
Absolutely critical. Butyrate in particular is like a superhero for the gut lining.
How so? What does it do to the lining?
Well, it acts like the ultimate sealant, you could say. It increases the expression of things called tight junction proteins. Imagine the cells lining your gut wall are like bricks in a wall.
Okay.
Tight junctions are the mortar between those bricks, holding them tightly together. Butyrate reinforces that mortar, makes it stronger.
It seals the gaps.
Precisely. This strengthens the gut barrier, reduces intestinal permeability, that leaky gut we mentioned earlier. By sealing those junctions, it helps prevent pro-inflammatory molecules from slipping through the gut wall and getting into your bloodstream where they can cause trouble.
What kind of molecules?
Things like LPS lipopolysaccharides, these are bits of the outer membrane of certain types of bacteria, and they're really potent triggers for systemic inflammation if they escape the gut. Butyrate helps keep them contained.
Okay, so butyrate helps maintain the gut wall integrity. But I've heard sometimes that really intense exercise can actually increase leaky gut temporarily.
That's a really important point, a key nuance. Yes, acute bouts of very intense, prolonged exercise. Think running a marathon can cause physiological stress that can temporarily increase gut permeability and potentially even shift the microbiome negatively in the very short term.
So too much exercise is bad for the gut.
Not exactly. The crucial distinction the sources make is about regularity. Habitual, regular aerobic exercise seems to build resilience over time. By consistently promoting those SCFA producers and strengthening the gut barrier through mechanisms like tighter junctions, regular exercise appears to counteract or buffer against those potential short-term negative effects of intense bouts. It basically equips your gut to handle stress better.
Okay. So consistency is key to building that resilience.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Speaking of stress, what about the well-known stress-reducing effects of exercise? How does that tie into gut health?
It's a huge connection. Exercise is a fantastic stress reliever, right? It lowers levels of stress hormones like cortisol.
Definitely feel that after a run.
Exactly. And high chronic stress is really detrimental to gut health. It can mess with gut motility, alter the microbiome composition, and worsen symptoms of things like bloating or IBS.
Why is stress so bad for the gut?
It's all part of that gut-brain axis communication. The gut and brain are constantly talking, often via the vagus nerve. Stress signals travel both ways. When you're stressed, your brain tells your gut, and it can go into a sort of fight or flight mode, shutting down optimal digestion.
Yep.
This is also why practices that deliberately calm the nervous system, things like deep breathing exercises, meditation, are also beneficial for gut health. They help lower those stress hormones and actively shift the body towards the rest and digest state, which is mediated by the vagus nerve. That state is optimal for healthy gut function.
So reducing stress, whether through a workout or through mindfulness, directly helps your gut. Makes sense. And lastly, what about metabolism? How does exercise and the resulting gut changes impact how we process energy?
Well, exercise itself obviously speeds up your metabolism. It helps your body burn calories and process food more efficiently, which can reduce feelings of bloating or sluggishness after eating.
Right.
But the gut microbiome, especially through the SCFAs it produces, adds another important layer. SCFAs are directly involved in energy regulation. They help regulate appetite signals, they play a role in controlling body weight, and they can significantly improve insulin sensitivity.
Insulin sensitivity, that's about blood sugar control, right?
Exactly. Better insulin sensitivity means your cells are better at taking up glucose from your bloodstream, preventing those big blood sugar spikes and crashes, which is crucial for preventing type 2 diabetes. So your gut microbes are actively participating in how your body manages energy and blood sugar, and exercise nudges them in a helpful direction.
Wow, they really are like tiny metabolic powerhouses working for us.
Yeah.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about the brain connection more directly. You mentioned the gut-brain axis. How does this three-way relationship, exercise, gut microbes, and your mind actually work?
Yeah, this is arguably one of the most exciting frontiers in the research. This bidirectional communication pathway, the gut-brain axis, think of it like a superhighway with constant traffic flowing in both directions.
Okay, messages going back and forth.
Constantly. And the gut microbiome isn't just influencing physical stuff, it's actively communicating with and influencing your central nervous system. That includes your mood, your motivation levels, even your cognitive abilities like memory and focus.
So my gut microbes can influence how I think and feel.
That's what the science strongly suggests. And perhaps even more surprisingly, your brain and your mental state can, in turn, affect your gut microbes and how they function. It really goes both ways.
Okay, that's mind-bending. Can this axis even affect whether we want to exercise?
There's evidence pointing that way, yes. Consider a study done in mice. Obviously, we need caution extrapolating from animals, but it's suggestive. Researchers used antibiotics to deplete the mice's gut microbiota.
Okay, wiped out their gut bugs.
Essentially, yes. And these mice showed significantly reduced voluntary running activity on their wheels. They also got exhausted much faster compared to mice with normal gut microbes.
Why? What was happening?
The researchers hypothesized it might be linked to changes in their brain chemistry, specifically dopamine regulation. Dopamine is crucial for motivation and reward pathways, so the lack of gut microbes seemed to impact their drive to move.
Wow. So it raises the question,